What's up, gamers? I am Timur, and I am joined by Lucy
Did you forget your name then?
I regretted saying "What's up, gamers" immediately.
Yeah.
It started off as a joke, but now I'm deadly serious about it. We have played Insomniac's Marvel's Spider-Man 2, the sequel to Insomniac's Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Technically,
yes,
that was the last entry. But yeah, so we came to LA and we checked out a decent chunk of the game.
2-3
to 3 hours. Yeah, we got to mess around in the open world and also do a few of the kind of key main story missions. And overall, I am unsurprised with what it is, but also kind of excited by some of the new things that they've done.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest takeaway is if you liked Marvel Spider-Man, if you liked Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, you're gonna like this game. It's a lot more of the same. It's just...
It's surprising because like saying it's more of that is both, it sounds slightly down on it, but
it's not, because that game was so good.
You have to remember that what more of that is one of the best superhero experiences that you can have in a video game medium. And they have done a lot of interesting little tweaks that when you play them, the previous games and this one like back to back, side by side, you realize how significant they are. But when you're actually playing them, you feel like there hasn't been that many big sweeping changes. I think the thing that immediately stuck out to me was the kind of traversal is, in a lot of ways it feels the same, but actually it's much quicker and it's much more streamlined.
So that wingsuit that they debuted in one of the PlayStation showcases is a big new addition.
Yes.
And getting around New York, swinging around was always super fun. But now both Miles and Peter have the wingsuit. And it first of all, it is wild just how far you can go with it. I really anticipated I would just, kind of fall to my doom a little bit.
You can fly. You basically can fly. Yeah.
But a clever thing that they've done to make getting around even more fun, to kind of encourage people to use it, because you could just still do it relying on web swinging. But if you use the wingsuit, there are kind of these air currents that really just speed you along. There are certain side activities. Craven the Hunter has these drones, and what you could do is like use your wingsuit, get in the slipstream, follow them, and it's just really fun. It just kind of adds a little something. And so I found myself very quickly not just relying on web swinging, but then I would and then use wingsuit and then back to web swinging, and it was just a really fun way to get along. Yeah,
and the world necessitates the web suit, wingsuit, whatever you want to call it, mainly because it's got the 2 extra burrows now, and it's a bigger landmass for the Spider-Men to traverse.
And water.
And there's like, the Hudson River is there. There's like pools and bodies of water and large parks, which in the previous game were a bit of an awkward break in the pacing and the flow of traversal, because you'd swing out from a city and suddenly you're over like a park where there's not a lot to latch onto. You kind of just had to wait for like a railing to do like the point jump from. But with this, you just pull out the wingsuit and you glide. They did. My worry was like, why would you ever swing if you can fly? And it does. The wingsuit is much slower than swinging, so they've designed it in a way you have to kind of integrate it into the swing mechanics. So what you want to do is like swing, build up, do a dive, and then swing back up into the air, switch to your wingsuit and kind of glide forward and then continuously move between them if you want to build up the inertia and momentum to get around quickly. It's also good for like, you swing up into the air, quickly pull it out, turn a corner, and then like go back to swinging. There's also there's a bunch of new swing maneuvers as well. You've got like a catapult launch where you like, web onto 2 buildings and then like just launch yourself. You've got like a big loop-de-loop alley-oop style thing where you can like get even higher. And you can also like skate across pools of water. And yeah, it feels really, really intuitive and it feels good. It's one of those things where I know that a lot of people complete that game and then they come back to it just to swing around and feel like Spider-Man. And I feel like this game is going to be really good for that. Like just having the game installed on your PlayStation permanently, just so you can have the thrill of traversing a world as Spider-Man, either Peter or Miles. It's a lot of fun.
What a thrill. But yes, obviously the other big thing coming in Marvel Spider-Man 2 is the fact that it is both a Peter and Miles story. So no more awkward, Peter's got to go help MJ in a different country. Miles, you're on your own in this one. And so the missions that we played is kind of going between, there'll be a Peter mission and then a Miles mission. I think in terms of the missions, like I connected to Miles a lot more.
Yeah.
I think like because his whole thing is all about community. He's helping his mum out. He's helping the members of the community out, and it kind of that for me is a lot more. As an emotional
Relatable,
storytelling beat, it's a lot more relatable. Peter as well also has the Venom symbiote. And that is kind of, it's really interesting because Peter, you always think of him as like the plucky, level-headed guy, and obviously with the symbiote, things are coming up about him. He's a lot more stern. He wants to get his own business out of the way. He doesn't really care about others. He's not really working in a team very well. And a supporting cast, obviously there's MJ, there's Harry and everyone. Like there's
Norman.
much more of a supporting cast. And so it's very interesting to see Peter's character kind of go off that way. The one thing I would say, so in terms of like story stuff, obviously a very limited chunk of it, but the one thing that I'm kind of getting is it's like, we didn't play from the very beginning of the game. And I'm very interested to see how that ramps up because you basically have to introduce both Spider-Men.
Yeah.
You have to introduce all their movesets, and obviously the movesets are very, very similar, but both they have different gadgets, they can obviously have different suits and symbiote powers and whatever. I'm interested to see how they kind of maintain that balance throughout and manage to continue to tell two distinct stories that obviously overlap in key moments.
We were dropped into the middle of it, and it does feel like when we came in, it was Peter and Miles had a relationship. They had been working together to kind of keep New York safe, but they seemed like there was a kind of a break in their relationship, a fissure to a degree, or a break in it, and because Peter is off doing his own thing.
Peter's leaving Miles on red.
Yeah, Harry is back, and the kind of key narrative of the part we played was Harry is sick, and Peter believes that by working with Kurt Connors, who is the Lizard, he can figure out a way to help Harry. So he's very focused on that, and as a result, so is MJ, which means he's kind of leaving Miles on his own. But Miles is also in a time of need for himself because one, he's having a crisis of confidence about his own place within his life. He's post college, I think. He's getting ready.
No, he's writing his college.
He's writing his college admission essay.
He's very stressed about it.
So he's stressed about that, and also he's dealing with it by fixating on Martin Lee, who was Mr. Negative in the first game, who is responsible for the death of his dad. And the people around him are kind of awkwardly trying to get him to stop obsessing. Like Genki's there, his mum's there, and they're worried that he's becoming obsessed with that, and it's kind of throwing him. It's a moment where you know that he needs Peter to guide him, but he doesn't have Peter because Peter is obsessing about something else. And the fact that you relate to Miles, it feels very intentional because they want you to kind of feel not great about being Peter. Whenever you're Peter, you feel that he's off, there's something wrong. It's the symbiote suit. Like every time you've experienced a symbiote Peter story, it's that I like this guy, but he's becoming a bad person. I really don't want to see this happen. And it's that kind of tension because whenever he speaks to Miles, he's very judgmental. He's
so blunt.
It's
very much like, I need to get my stuff out of the way. I don't care about your stuff anymore. And like genuinely leaving Miles on red. Like Miles is like, oh my God, Peter finally replied to my message, or he finally called me back. There's
a really cool set piece that ended our demo where it involved like chasing Peter and Miles together, and does this thing where you can almost seamlessly kind of switch from one point to the other. So like you'll be playing as Miles, and then like mid-swing it will cut to Peter.
Very cinematic.
It feels very filmic, but you're kind of chasing down the Lizard, who's like rampaging throughout the city, and Peter is very like one-track minded on catching the Lizard, and he's like barreling through it. Miles is behind, and he's like saving people at the same time. He's doing the I am the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And by the end of it, when Peter's talking about what happened with MJ, he describes Miles as being off his game, when actually it was Peter that wasn't doing what people expect of him. And it's a very harsh kind of like takedown of him. But then when he speaks to Harry, he's very different. Like he's like very soft toned, and he's like desperate around Harry. So you can tell that the symbiote is bringing out the worst parts of Peter and manipulating him and twisting him. So it's a really fascinating narrative thing. My one concern is the same concern I had with the previous Spider-Man game, which is it's retreading old narrative plot lines.
Yes.
They did it well in the original, where it's like, what is the deal with Doc Ock? Is he a naughty boy or not? And with this one, there's similar questions where, you know, Peter's got the symbiote suit. We've seen Venom in the artwork. We've seen the 19 inches of statue Venom. He's in there. It's unclear who is going to be Venom currently. Eddie Brock isn't a big deal. Flash Thompson isn't a big deal, but he is there. And there is some stuff that I don't want to spoil that has been kind of hinting at a very different take on Venom, and I hope that does come to fruition. There's also a bunch of things that we haven't talked about.
Yeah, I mean, another main new thing that is being introduced in Spider-Man 2 is a parry mechanic.
Parry mechanic, it is, I hate to say it, it is a Sekiro system.
It is. It's also the same button.
It's a very similar feeling. It goes red, and when you do it, the symbiote basically like lashes out and pushes everyone away. The two abilities now. So Peter has the symbiote abilities. You hold L1 and hit a button, and it's like tied to face buttons and that kind of stuff. And he's got a bunch of them, which is like, you know, grab an enemy and hit him on the floor, do a big like
a massive punch.
Yeah, he's got the Venom like becoming the symbiote and like grabbing all the enemies and launching them up into the air. And then he's got like tech stuff as well. He's got his spider suit with all the legs and that kind of stuff. Miles has his like bio electric ability as well, and also tech. So it's like you have these two skill trees almost.
Yeah.
And then in terms of skill trees, the upgrades and stuff, you have individual skill trees for each of them, and then you have like a shared one. So if you upgrade like a traversal thing, it applies to both Peter and Miles. It works out well.
The one thing I would say, like my biggest criticism from the time that we had hands-on is readability on the game is becoming quite overwhelming.
It's a lot.
It's a lot going on. So with the parry mechanic, you know, you'll get the flash of yellow and then red. That means you can parry it. When it goes red, which is kind of rewiring my gamer brain. When you were doing the lizard fight, it would flash blue, and blue meant you had to jump over it. There's also, and while you're dealing with that, there's also, you know, like if someone's shooting at you, that's coming in from the screen as well. It's a very busy game. It's obviously very fast-paced as well. I wonder if I would have the same kind of criticism if we'd played it from the beginning and I was a little bit more used to it, but having played the previous two games, I was kind of surprised at how it caught me off guard sometimes. I would also say, and this is kind of a criticism for Sony that they still have time to fix, but I found, so when you go from being Peter into Miles, the subtitle does not say Miles Morales. It doesn't say Peter Parker. It says Spider-Man both times, and then on the subtitle, it has a little icon of Spider-Man's face, and the Peter Parker one is like blue, like 2 pixels worth of blue as a backdrop, and Miles is 2 pixels of black, and it's like, that's not very readable at a glance, and sometimes just when it changes you, I'm just like, okay, I'm playing as Spider-Man, I'm not sure who until they start talking. Especially when you consider how many suits there are.
There's a lot of that stuff,
So
and obviously,
it's
like,
busy.
For us, we can use like the sound of voices to figure it out, but there are people who will need clearer kind of like indicators of who is talking, when are they talking, what are they saying, and some of that could do with a little more tweaking. Maybe it has been tweaked. We're playing a 6-week old build.
They were saying that a lot, but not all of the accessibility settings were in there. So your kind of regular thing, like you could actually slow the game down if you wanted to. Repeated button taps can be a hold. All that kind of stuff. They said they were actually going to be adding more in post-launch, but they weren't necessarily talking about that just yet. So I have no doubt in my mind that in some
they'll get it there.
Thinking about it, this is just my impressions after 2-3 hours of it.
Overall though, like I hate to use this phrasing because it sounds reductive, but it is more of that. But that is, like we said at the top, it's an experience that people adore. Like it's an experience that sold millions and millions, an experience that is like stands above pretty much every other superhero game when it comes to kind of like making you feel like a superhero, and especially Spider-Man, and a narrative that and a world that is taking the Spider-Man basics and reworking them into something more interesting. And it feels more ambitious without feeling like it's overreaching. There are definitely some messy elements of it, but I wouldn't say that I'm suddenly like, oh, this is going to be terrible, it's going to fall apart. I very rarely will be like, at a preview stage, be like, you know, I think this is going to be great, or I think this is going to be terrible, because we can never tell. But given the track record of Insomniac and the strong foundation that they have, I would be very surprised if this came out and it was like, this game sucks. I don't think so. Like I was excited that I got to play it, and I was annoyed that I didn't get to carry on playing it. So I think that's as good as you really can get from for a first taste of this game. Yeah.
Tam's going to have a write-up on the website, gamespot.com, about our hands-on experience time with the game. For more on Marvel's Spider-Man 2, I'm trying desperately not to make a 19 inches of Venom joke. I think it's all been done before. But, you know, more on Spider-Man 2. Make sure you stay tuned to GameSpot.
All 19 inches of GameSpot.
I got you! Stand